Greek polis. The tyrants. The tyrants were an army that tried to take over the kings of Greece. They wanted all the power to themselves and wanted nobody else to overtake them. The polis. The polis was a Greek city-state. The polis controlled everything, even outside of what they owned. It was self-governed and held up to 300,000 people. Romans. The Romans were a military-based society. Men were expected to join the army, and women had little to no rights. Athens. Their economy was based on trade. It was a democracy, and only 10 to 15% of the population could participate in government. Women and slaves were the main people who could not participate in the government.
What was the Roman Empire? The Roman Empire was the post-Republican period of ancient Rome. The Roman Empire became known after the Roman Republic. The Roman Empire ended the Civil War with a group called the First Triumvirate. Some of this group's main members were Julius Caesar, Crassus, and Pompey, whom of which are all very well-known individuals in today's society. Caesar himself actually ended up winning the position for dictator and was granted with complete power over the empire. The creation of the Roman Empire greatly affected the wealthy, and the poor people were often overlooked. The social structure of the Roman Empire was based solely on property, wealth, citizenship, and freedom. It was also based on the fact whether you were a man or a woman. You were also defined by the social status of the father and the husband in your household. Women were expected to stay home, look after the children and the homes, and very few had any real independence. Rome conquered Sparta and the rest of Greece in 146 BC. When the Roman Empire was split into two, Sparta became part of the Eastern Roman Empire. As I mentioned before, the Roman Empire was based on wealth. The patricians were the wealthy upper-class people. Everyone else was considered a plebeian. The patricians were the ruling class of the early Roman Empire, and only certain families were part of the patrician class, and you had to be born into this. Now, moving on beyond the social classes, we will be talking about the government in the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire was governed by an autocracy, which means that the government was made up of a single person. In Rome, this person was the emperor. While the Roman Empire was originally an autocracy, it slowly began transitioning into a democracy. This was possible because the Roman people created a government where the people were the rulers. While Rome was a republic and not a democracy, the Romans established the framework for future democratic governments. Rome had senators and tribunes elected by the people to represent their interests and what they voted for. Some people refer to the Roman Empire as the Golden Age of Europe. The Romans created a legal and political system that endures to this day. And not only did it conquer a lot of territory, but it also established an administration system to run that territory. As we are now in the future and we look back and review both the origin and the structure of the Roman Empire, we realize that it greatly has an effect on what Europe is today. If it was not for the Roman Empire, many of the foundations that Europe is built on today would not be possible. Thanks to major foundations such as the Roman Empire, we can look around at what we have today. Without these major foundations, what we have in our modern-day society would not be possible.
Roman Republic. Roman Republic was built in the city of Rome in in 509 BCE, and it lasted for around 500 years. Officials were elected by citizens, and to be considered a citizen, you needed to own land. You also needed to own land to be able to join the military. In the Roman Republic, there were two main ruling groups, the patricians and plebeians. The patricians were a wealthy and a powerful group of nobles, and they were small in numbers, and plebeians were a poor group, large in numbers, and they were politically limited. They had two consuls and a senate. One of them were elected based on the highest position in Roman Republic, and the other was based on the highest civilian and military magistrate. The Roman Republic began to fall due to the plebeians outnumbering the patricians. Although they lived together, their economic and political differences were so broad that there was always tension between the classes. Because of lack of policies to bridge these differences, the plebeians, who were the lower class, had to revolt. Over time, the East thrived and the West declined. The western part of Roman Empire fell.